Hey you Stygian Dogs. July 24th saw the release of issue number 13 of Conan the Barbarian from Titan Comics and Heroic Signatures. Doug Braithwaite returns to kick off the second year of Jim Zub's Conan in Frozen Faith Part 1 Cold Comfort. We'll take our usual thorough look at the book, but first, while you go out and buy it, let's have a look at this month's covers. Cover A is from Dan Panosian. Cover B from Amanda Connor. Cover C is from this arc's artist, Doug Braithwaite. I really like this one. It's cover D from Gil Agudin, and cover E is from Greg Broadmore. And somehow I was unable to get cover F from Giada Marchisio, and I'm pretty disappointed about that, actually. So, now on to the issue itself. And here we go. I'll flip through the book, present a few close-ups of panels. I'll try not to read too much verbatim, and I will outline the general plot and happenings. I want you to be curious and to grab your own copy. Seriously, buy these comics. I want to give you a sense of how things look and to hopefully convey my excitement and a few summary thoughts. But be warned, if you want a pure reading experience, and I know you do, I would caution you about spoilers. If inclined, feel free to skip ahead to the conclusion. On the inside cover, we see an advertisement for John C. Hocking's excellent Conan, City of the Dead. This collects the previously released Conan and the Emerald Lotus and the all-new Conan and the Living Plague. After you read Conan and the Emerald Lotus, I absolutely recommend reading Hocking's Heroic Legends Conan short, Black Starlight, before jumping into the Living Plague. Opposite that, credits for the teams at Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. On the next page, we again open with the Numidian Chronicles, and a map of the Hyborian Age for wayfinding. I especially love Francesca Burrell's frost giant details in this portion of the map. We also get a brief prologue to set the story in motion, reading as follows. On the Road of Kings, fresh from the sack of Venarium, young Conan of Samaria heeded his wanderlust and head north beyond the borders of his homeland in search of glory and adventure. Armed with only a broadsword and an old Pictish blade plucked from the battlefield, the Cimmerian set out unto the ice-capped mountains beyond all his people have ever known. What he finds is not but a white waste, a harsh environment, frigid and inhospitable, a place to truly test his mettle. And we begin. A young Conan stands against the crisp winter winds. A frost-tinged breath slips like smoke from the Cimmerian's smile. Conan the Barbarian, Frozen Faith Part 1, Cold Comfort. Grim Jim Zub writer, diabolical Doug Braithwaite artist, dangerous Diego Rodriguez color artist, rascally Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Tyler Smith lettering, and calamitous Chris Butera editor. This is the North, a land born to test all who dare to cross its stunning splendor. A change in tone from the previous 12 books is immediately established. Rodriguez's colors are now crisp and bright as compared to the darker palette used to match the dark shadows and ill portent embedded in Zub's previous stories. Here there is renewal, a blank canvas for a new adventure. This is also evidenced in Comic Craft's lettering boxes, frost-tinged in gradient blue. Conan as a child, and his father's lesson that Crom gave him a steel soul to strive and to slay. As the boy stumbles, he questions his father. How does he know that these are Crom's gifts, and that he watches from the mountain? His father replies that the truth will burn deep within, on the battlefield in moments of fear-born fury. Yet, in the battle at Venarium, nothing. No exaltation, no certainty of his god's power, cold comfort instead of clarity. Better the reality of his senses, the trust in what can be seen or touched. A doomed hunter's camp in the distance, beset by wolves. The threats of the physical world and weapons to rely on, enemies to vanquish. Trust in what can be seen or touched. As Conan faces the pack, he is given to ask, what happens when steel falters? What drives a man to overcome his limitations? What prayers do the faithless cry when all may be lost? Again, Conan as a boy, questioning his father about the nature of Crom. From where does he rule? From which mountaintop? From every mountaintop, his father replies, and within every Cimmerian, watching the mettle of one's life. In the here and now, Conan summons a guttural roar. The Cimmerian will not be bested by these beasts, and in victory wonders if he's found his purpose, a hunter's purpose, survival as simple satisfaction. Has he found the tools to carve out a life of his own, a hunter's life, a hard life? All of it under his control, free from the hoary traditions of others? His hunt continues. As Conan takes aim, he hesitates to take the bear's life from afar. Back turned, the young warrior seeks more than a life set solely on subsistence. With the exaltation of battle promised by his ancestors, he challenges the beast. Then we again join Conan in his youth as he challenges his father to a fight. The boy's challenge is fed with fire. A fire flaring when the threat is real. Kill or be killed. Survival or death. Beast slain, senses bursting, Conan understands this offering, this prayer forged in power, without superstition, needing no god of the mountain. Conan returns to camp, welcomed by the unwelcome. A band of Aesir, degenerate warriors, proceed to threaten the Cimmerian. As a presence watches from the forest, fascinated by the folly of these fools of the north. And the next issue, The Daughter's Gaze. And so closes issue number 13 of Conan the Barbarian from Jim Zub and a returning Doug Braithwaite. Zub and team have successfully created a sense of renewal here, a revivification that is bound to re-engage those fans that had made the year-long commitment to Zub's previous sprawling yarn, a fresh start free from the cursed black stone and the nefarious schemes of a certain skull-faced sorcerer. This absolutely heralds the start of what promises to be another great year of Conan comics. I'll have more to say in the conclusion. On the opposite page, an advertisement for the Battle of the Black Stone miniseries, arriving in September, with things kicking off in August's Savage Sword of Conan number 4. And then, Jeffrey Shanks returns with another essay. Part 13 is titled Cimmeria, Land of Darkness and Deep Night. Beginning with an excerpt from Robert E. Howard's 1932 poem Cimmeria, Jeff tells of the inspiration and origins of Conan's homeland from the myths and legends of antiquity. With real-world origins as a semi-nomadic tribe living on the steppes north of the Black Sea, Howard's inspiration, as hypothesized by scholar Patrice Lounet, stems from the Homeric myth of a people living near the entrance to the underworld. Shanks then mentions how Howard's world-building essay, The Hyborian Age, has the Cimmerians descending from those Atlanteans who survived the Great Cataclysm, re-emerging as the barbaric warrior culture we find in the Conan stories. With creative license, Howard sees the Cimmerians driven from their lands in the waning years of the Hyborian Age, and eventually entering recorded history as the ancestors of those Cimmerians appearing in ancient texts. In Howard's vision, some of these people would eventually migrate back to Europe as the sons of Arius, as mentioned in the Numidian Chronicles, and then as ancestors to those Celtic tribes that battled the Romans and the Gaelic settlers that spawned the likes of Howard's other heroes, Cormac MacArt and Turlough O'Brien. In this way, Howard was able to connect his heroes back to the Hyborian Age and beyond to the Atlanteans of the Thurian Age. Jeff closes by writing that Cimmeria was an important piece of the great chronological tapestry that Howard was weaving, and from which the greatest warrior of an eternal line of warriors strode forth to trample the jeweled thrones of the earth. As always, I recommend reading the Jeffrey Shanks essays in full. After the essay, the chainmail letters page, and then a very full covers gallery. There are those that I shared at the beginning of the video, and then a few more exclusives that fans will find at San Diego Comicon and elsewhere. Being the start of a new year's worth of Conan, this is a pretty special issue, so I'm not surprised at the number of covers available, and there's likely something here to please everyone. Finally, on the back cover, we find an advertisement for the Funcom properties. With a tale that sees the young Cimmerian embark on a spiritual sojourn of discovery, Jim Zub has given us a relatable story of a youth's questioning of the supernatural in a world of immediacy, of tangible threats to be thwarted. The telling is satisfyingly peppered with flashbacks to a young Conan and his father. the youngster demonstrating an inquisitiveness and intelligence as he questions his kin as to the nature of Crom, while his present older self confronts the wilds, demonstrating the knack for survival granted to Crom's children. But ultimately, we follow a Conan preoccupied with the physical world for meaning making, while unknowingly being on the cusp of supernatural entanglements and the specter of a sorcery-filled future. With Venarium offering no revelation of Crom's power, no sense of exaltation, he finds himself left with naught but the reality of his own senses and the power of his own actions. Just how will his encounter with the Frost Giant's daughter change him and inform of the ultimate spiritual truth of his people, that Crom, residing in his mountain throne, cares not? Things are just getting started, and I can't wait to see how Jim Zub answers the challenge that he's set up for himself. Now, reading this issue and having recently reread Thrice Marked for Death, I'm absolutely reminded why Doug Braithwaite is now perhaps one of my favorite Conan artists. The detail of his pencil work, the subtlety of expressions, not to mention the brutal action. All of it's just so wonderful. And the sexiness of that final panel. The daughter's allure promises to match the charged eroticism of Conan and Belite's intimacy in Braithwaite's second arc. Readers will also be pleased with Diego Rodriguez's colors here. Where much of his previous work was shrouded in the dark and the shadows, here we're given the opposite. The crisp, bright whites of day and snow as a blank canvas for streaks of bloody crimson. The blues of Arctic ice and sky mirroring the Cimmerian's eyes. It's exceptional. The white wastes of the north serve as a blank canvas for a new adventure, extending also to Comicraft's lettering choices. The text boxes, frost-tinged and gradient blue, offering something unique from last year's outings. As was promised, Jim Zub gives us an absolute palate cleanser. Other than the pictured presence of a certain Pictish blade, it is untethered from the epic run of the series' first year. Set as a celebration and perhaps an elaboration on the myth and magic of the Frost Giant's daughter, the story gives readers a sense of renewal. It's very refreshing, and upon its ending, we're given to understand that things are just getting started. Zub knows how to set things up, readying us for what's to come, leaving us eager to pick up the next issue. Thanks for watching, liking, consider subscribing. Keep your eyes out over the next few days for what I'm hoping will be some damned exciting Conan announcements from San Diego Comicon. It feels like Fred Malmberg is hinting at such anyways. And until next time, take it easy, you Stygian Dogs.